Greetings, family. Greetings from Israel. Well, I want to make this video really short. This week I made a video in the city of Jerusalem and I talked a little about this situation. About. How would you say the lack of agreement between the state of Israel and the nation of Colombia? The last few hours were like hours of a lot of tension, which led to a decision where Colombia says, from now on, all Israelis who come to visit Colombia need to get a visa. Like, for example, when many Latin Americans have to travel to the United States, they need to apply for a visa with a predetermined time, right? So, that was the decision Colombia made to break that agreement. Until now, Israelis could visit Colombia without any kind of problem. And in response to this situation, Israel said, oh yes, so? In the same way, we have to treat Colombian citizens. They will also need a visa to enter the country. And that was quite surprising because there was no advance notice. There were people flying on planes who were entering Israel and arriving at the airport. And suddenly they find out they can't enter the country because they're not allowed in. So, well, I made a video explaining, let's pray for Colombia. Let's pray for the situation between Colombia and Israel for this rupture. And I've received a lot of criticism. I've had a lot of criticism. On one hand, constructive criticism, a lot of people encouraging me. Thank you for updating us because now we know what we're facing. But on the other hand, a lot of people doubted me, doubted my credibility, doubted my message because they said, you're not telling the truth. Because we're looking for official information, and that official information doesn't exist. It's not on any website. There's nothing at the Colombian consulate here. There's no information about that anywhere. We also looked for information in Israel, and none of them are giving us the information you have. Therefore, delete that video because it causes confusion. And I said, absolutely not. I'm talking about reality because I just came from the airport. I was there with a group, and there was a pastor who was bringing people, and that pastor was not allowed to bring people in. So I know what I'm talking about. That's it. I mean, it's happening to me live, right at this very moment. I'm not making anything up at all. So I left that video and I said it's better if I comment on it, better if I say it before someone else comes and says anything. Because sometimes there are people who just say things for the sake of saying them because they're driven by hate or anger, or that Colombians are bad people or Israelis are bad people. And that was never my intention, nor will it ever be my intention to say this is happening and this is bad. I believe that the relationship, obviously, and as I said, I also said it in the video, the relationship between Colombia and Israel does not represent their citizens. I know there are many Colombian citizens who love and support the people of Israel, but unfortunately they are under a government that doesn't think exactly the same as its citizens. And well, the decisions are not made by the citizens, but by those in government. The same thing happens to us here. We also don't make the decisions as citizens. The person in government is the one making the decisions. So the situation up to this point, that's how things are. We are not simply victims of the decisions made by our leadership, and we just pray that at some point, some new leadership that comes in can reverse this situation and not leave us in a bad situation. I remember there was also a government right there in Colombia, the previous one that left it like a what do you call a paragraph in the Constitution that didn't allow him to change a position regarding the issue of Palestine. Unfortunately, in the end, that's just how things are sometimes. But well, the good news is this: I have the bad news. Unfortunately, for the moment, all those people who were flying to Israel won't be able to enter the country. But well, there's good news. The good news is that they will be able to enter by applying for a visa. So these last 3 days, from the moment you saw the video until yesterday and today, believe me, I personally have been working really hard with thousands of phone calls with the people from the Ministry of Tourism, with the people from the Ministry of the Interior, with the Minister of Tourism, with the people from the Ministry of the Interior. Phone call, message sent, message received. I myself said I'm responsible. I take responsibility for receiving the people coming from Colombia. I take responsibility that they will enter and that they will leave, that they will not stay illegally in the country. But well, obviously I take responsibility for some people I know, not for every Colombian, but unfortunately they didn't say no to me either. It doesn't work like that, because you can't take responsibility for everyone. There are good people and there are bad people. In short, the decision. Today there was a meeting a few hours before I'm making this video. Exactly 3.5 hours ago, there was a final meeting here in Israel where the following decision was made, and here's the decision. It's important that you share this video with all Colombians who are planning to travel to Israel this year, next year, or in the coming months, or so they know what the requirements are. In short, the good news is that the door isn't closed forever. The good news is that you can enter Israel, but you need to complete a small formality. If your visit to Israel is related to tourism only, and purely and specifically tourism, that's what I'm going to explain. If your visit is related to study, business, or work, that's a different requirement, and those are other topics. And in the coming days, all these new arrangements and new situations that will arise will be explained. But for now, what has been established is the following. Groups of 10 people or more, that is, if a church comes or a group of young people or whatever it may be that comes on a specific date, they all arrive on the same date, and if there are 10 people or more in that group, then a company in Israel, the one operating the trip for them, is the one that can apply for their visas. You as a group simply have to send your first name, last name, passport, and some information that will be required. An Excel table will be sent. You have to fill it out, and here the analysis and review are done, and it's approved. It's approved who goes. It says permitted, 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 or not permitted. If there's anyone with a question mark, no, but generally when it's a group, almost everyone is allowed in most cases. And then, 10 days after making that request, you receive the response. The local operator who will ultimately give the final information to the group that's coming from outside. The same thing happens with countries that don't have diplomatic relations with Israel. When I say they don't have diplomatic relations with Israel, it's that there isn't the freedom to just fly to a country, enter, and stay for as long as the country allows me. Because now from now on, Colombians, your visa will depend solely on the length of your tour. It's not that I'm going with a tourist visa and they'll give me 3 months. It will depend on the length of your tour or the amount of time the customs officer determines and tells you, I'll give you 15 days, I'll give you 20 days. So that opportunity to stay here for 3 months or 6 months no longer exists, or whatever the tourist visa used to allow. When there was an open diplomatic relationship, right? So now it's limited. If you don't reach a group of 10 people, if, for example, there are fewer than 10 people, then the process is individual. So, as a Colombian citizen, do you have to go to the Israeli consulate in Colombia? In this case, it is located in the city of Bogota, and you have to send an email. Later, we'll give you the email address where you have to send it. And there you have to request an appointment to have an in-person interview. They will give you a date and you will sit down with the consul or the consul's assistants from Israel and they will ask you questions. Why do you want to visit Israel? In that interview, you must be prepared and bring a passport valid for at least 6 months from your entry date. If you enter on June 1st, your passport must be valid for at least 6 more months from that date. You need to bring 2 5x5 color photos with a white background, like for a passport. You also need to bring your airline tickets, both outbound and return, and the proof of payment. Don't go without your airline ticket. You need to go with proof that you have already paid for the tour, that you have already bought the tour, and that you have a voucher. Where will you stay? Where is the tour? And how long will you be there? Who is the person responsible in Israel? And all of that if it's not a tour, if you're coming because you're traveling alone, not joining any tour. I just rented an Airbnb, so you have to show that you rented an Airbnb, an apartment, or whatever it may be. You have to bring a work certificate, if you have one, or a certificate of studies, and the dates of your vacation and your return. Also, if you have the possibility to present it and you are working, you need to include a salary certificate and the date you started working at that company. You have to bring bank statements from the last few months, as requested, possibly from the last 3 months. Generally, if you have it, they will possibly determine that during the interview. It's not necessary if you don't have it, but you do need to bring international health insurance that covers your entire stay in Israel. That service is not free. You have to pay 120,000 pesos. Okay, Colombian pesos, which must be paid on the day of the appointment. And that includes the visa fee and the entire application form for entry into the country. You have to provide your personal information, reason for travel, and why you want to do it, and everything. Who makes up your immediate family? That starts from May 14th. Okay. What's it going to be? What I can tell you is that there is no general break between the two countries. That's something I want to be careful with my words here, because some people told me, we're not breaking off relations with Israel. There is no break in relations with Israel, but there is a distancing of cooperation in the bilateral relations between the two countries. Those would be the diplomatic words, that there is a distancing and a pause in cooperation in relation to Israel and in relation to Colombia in everything that has to do with the bilateral relations that both have as countries. An interesting fact is that Colombia recognized the state of Israel in February 1949, and that diplomatic relations were established in July 1957, and relations. For years and years and years, the countries worked together in cooperation, with high-level visits and trade, always, all the time. In fact, even in 2013, we had a visit here from Juan Manuel Santos, one of the presidents of Colombia, where Israel paid him many honors for visiting the country. Everyone who has the ETA visa, this is another question. Do you know that starting in January, Israel activated the ETA visa? Activated it, countries have to apply online for the ETA visa. Many Colombians already had it beforehand, and what that ETA visa gave was access for the next 2 years. As of today, May 14th, it is no longer relevant for those who got it beforehand. Even if you have the ETA visa, you need an official visa. Approved by the state of Israel, meaning the visa you obtained is no longer relevant. ETA online. And what if today you want to go and get this ETA visa online? Unfortunately, the system will not allow you, and you, as a Colombian citizen, cannot do it. So this is the final news for all those who told me that I was too quick to announce that it was not possible to enter the country. I was not too quick. Unfortunately, you cannot enter the country without all this kind of internal procedure. That is, from May 12th, 2025 and before, any Colombian could enter Israel without any kind of problem. But from May 12th to May 14th, there was this whole situation where it wasn't exactly clear what was happening between both countries. Colombia blamed Israel, Israel blamed Colombia, and that's how the situation was and everything. It was like nobody knew what to say. In fact, the consulate also didn't know what to say. I mean, everything was like, let's wait. They couldn't say anything. But today at 12 noon, finally the state of Israel, here Israel time, 12 noon, Director of the Ministry of the Interior and Ministry of Tourism staff. This decision is made, and these are the requirements that will be needed from now on. So, I repeat, Colombians are welcome in Israel, but they need to complete the pre-entry process. And remember, 10 days in advance. My advice is to try to do it with more time. Try to give yourself even 15 days to complete the pre-entry process to the country. We hope to give you a hug here in the land of Israel, and when you come, bring your flag, bring your Colombian flag here, and lift up a prayer for the Colombian people here in the land of Israel. We support the Colombian people, we love the Colombian people. And well, we are very sorry about this rift between both countries. But we trust and believe that in the Lord's time, this can be restored. So, as I said in the previous video, this is a time when the church needs to rise up, pray, and start removing all these schemes of the enemy. Where there is unity, there is victory. Where there is faith, there is victory. Where the Lord is involved, darkness has no entry. So, family, I hope this video has helped clear up all your doubts and concerns and has clarified the situation a little more for you about everything that's been happening these days here between Colombia and Israel. And again, we trust and believe that in time, maybe in the coming weeks or months, the situation will finally take shape and head in a different direction. And it will be much easier to visit the land of Israel, as well as for Israel to visit the territory of Colombia. So without further ado, I greet you from Israel. Share the video with anyone you want and help us to help all those Colombians who are currently in Europe trying to enter Israel. If you are in Europe trying to enter Israel, don't waste your time stressing over the Colombian consulate in Europe. Whether you are in Madrid or wherever you are, apply for the emergency visa so you can enter Israel as a visitor, which is a temporary visa. Family, greetings, take care, shalom to each and every one of you.